Hello friends, on a bench today a B2 that suffered a moron-induced death. This amplifier came to me from a hi-fi shop, which apparently got it from another hi-fi shop. The story's a little blurry, but bottom line is I knew before I put it on a bench that there are going to be some dead V-fets inside this unit. Just did not expect all 8 of them to be dead. That's usually the case when a moron got under the hood of this thing and he shouldn't have been there and essentially killed all the irreplaceable transistors. And so now this wonderful condition B2 is just a glorified door stopper. Well, I wouldn't have gotten it if I was going to make it a door stopper. So it's going to end up being a test platform for me. So it's going to become a tool, for lack of better words. But nonetheless, this is a very sad story, and unfortunately, something that I see. It's not unusual, right? Happens more often than we know. Therefore, in this video, I will take a little time to talk through this as a word of caution for the multiple B2 owners out there. So Yamaha sold over 10,000 of these things. A lot of them are still alive. People find them for cheap at different auction sites, and the moment you hear one of these, even at 50 years old, in 50 years old condition, a lot of these are still working. There's that shock that many experience. Like if you go on different forums and you listen to that, people just get shocked. This is a 5-figure sound amplifier at 50 years old, which is quite impressive. It tells a lot. So it also speaks to the build quality of this thing, that it lasted 50 years, which is definitely, I don't think that was the intended lifespan for this. I think this is operating well beyond its intended life expectancy. But also to the engineering design, the circuit design in this units. And you heard me many times saying like a moron would have done this. And let's just kind of go over why that is. When you see 8 V-fets dead in a B2, it's 99.99. There's almost like no other reason why these are dead other than a moron killed them. I'm going to explain to you why it is impossible for the B2 to kill all V-fets based on, like, let's say, quotation marks, natural causes. Like you wouldn't find a B2 with 8 V-fets dead just naturally, like even from abuse. Like if you short the speaker wires at the rear, there's current protection circuits in here that would put your unit in protection. You wouldn't die. And even that extreme case, you won't be able to kill all 8. So to go over why that's not possible, let's first at a high level describe the unit at the risk of repeating myself, that you may have heard me saying, repeating this in other videos. So this at a first glance may fool some, thinking like this is a dual mono. It is not. There is a circuit that is common between the two channels, which we could then immediately say, okay, what if that circuit fails? Would that kill both channel V-fets, all 8 of them? And I'm going to tell you right now off the bat, no, and I'm going to explain to you why. First of all, that circuit is actually a very important one, is the regulated power supply for the gate voltages that feeds all these 8 V-fets. It's plus minus 85 volts. It's located on this side section of the main power supply. And you could see in this unit, this was very virgin. Like you'd see a little scorching there. That's minimal though after 50 years. So this unit is not one of the units that lived inside a cabinet all its life. Otherwise, this would have been scorched really bad. You also could see this is a first generation unit because these resistors are not raised off of the board as they are in later serial numbers. And what we talked about in other videos is like when this board is closed this way and this entire mechanical configuration here works as designed from factory, I think this is maybe one area where this could have potentially been done differently, because it acts as an oven more or less, and it kind of bakes these components in the maple capacitors, which is the next topic, or one of the topics we're going to talk about today, or at least bring you back to prior discussions where we're going to talk about these things failing and leaking the electric fluid. But before we go back to that, let's continue the conversation about the plus minus 85 volt power supply, which is being fed on both from both transformers on the AC side. So both transformers feed the AC lines to this power supply that then is being regulated into plus minus 85 volt DC. And obviously the positive feeds the P channel, the 2SJ26 gates, and the negative 85 volts feeds the N channel, the 2SK76 gates. And so what happens when the unit gets powered up, this power supply acts as a lifeline for those V-fets, sends immediate voltage to the gates. The V-fets are being turned off, or at least mostly turned off, so that they don't conduct themselves to death when the drain to source supply kicks in, which that is separate, that is not shared. You have, from this side on, you have one transformer with those two caps right there feeding this transformers, these two caps feeding the right side, this transformers, this capacitors, this capacitors and this transformer feeding the left side. So sorry about that, having senior moments once in a while. So that's separate. That's not like, if like you were saying here, we see this capacitors leaking, and when these capacitors leak and they are being used for a long time, and they're dry inside, sometimes the foil short, so you have a shorter capacitor, and that could kill one channel but not both channels. In this case, this capacitor, one of the two on the right channel, one of these two leaked. You see the dielectric fluid here, which is sometimes not just dirtying the chassis, but sometimes actually attacks the zinc plating and it corrodes it. But these ones are not shorted. They just leak. So they all need to be replaced, no doubt about that. But this is not what would have caused the death of this channel right here. So going back to the 85 volt gate power supply. So let's say that this breaks, this goes bad, and I've had amplifiers come to me with a bad gate supply, and they were still fine. Why is that? So even if you disconnect completely the wires, Yamaha engineers thought about that ahead of time, and what they did, they built a self-preservation circuit on each side, on both sides, on both of these driver boards. There's a self-preservation circuit that protects those V-fets. It's called auto bias. It's essentially a self-bias circuit that ensures that at no point you have a drain and source voltage without anything at the gate. So it ensures that the gate is biased. Yeah, no, the amplifier won't work right. You cannot adjust the bias from your bias pots, but it will save those V-fets, and that's proven. I know this because I've had amplifiers that that came in, as I mentioned, with a bad gate power supply, but also I actually tested that. I actually just powered up under test conditions without 85 volts being present, and that circuit works really well. And so that would not kill the V-fet. So we could exclude the scenario where the gate voltage not being present at the gates of this V-fets from this power supply would have killed all 8 of them, because as we said, there's a self-preservation mechanism built in that would have protected that. So with all that in mind, what Yamaha could not prevent, they have current overprotection, they have DC overprotection. They, like, if you have more than, I think, 2+ volts at the output for whatever, like you may have, let's say you may have one of these bad transistors, bad dual, like JFETs on the input. You may have a really high DC offset. You may lose, for example, ground on the front end of the amplifier. Again, you may have a really high DC offset. There's a preservation mechanism there to save your speakers. Like that will not do anything to the amp, but it will save your speakers. That's a protection circuit. Then this is the over current protection circuit. Then we also have, as I mentioned to you, the self bias. So the Yamaha engineers went to a lengthy extent of making sure that these amplifiers don't self-kill themselves, and they are protected against some. They have some idiot-proof protection as well, and that's a testament, because that's why they work for so many years, and they're quite resilient. Probably one of the most resilient out of all the V-fet amplifiers, I would say. B1 is also very resilient. Definitely Yamaha built more complicated, their circuits a little bit more than Sony, but the results are you're seeing a lot more Yamahas around than Sony. So Sony had a little bit of a different approach. Nothing wrong with that, but and some of their, I don't want to go into the weeds, not the fault of Sony's, but some of their units die for other reasons. Nonetheless, going back to this situation here. So what would have happened to this unit? Highly likely, the owner would have probably wanted to service it. Maybe a crackle because of the selector, which we talked about. We talked about maybe, I don't know, recap this board potentially. I didn't see them do any work in here. It looks virgin, but anyways, this board. This is what the cooking part, and you could see like how these things are coming apart right here. Yamaha used this Sony glue that it's both corrosive and it disintegrates under high temperature. It's supposed to hold up down heat sinks. So it's not their fault. They sold a product that, it's not supposed to be here, and a lot of the manufacturers learned. So anyways, when you see this glue, needs to be replaced, but we already redesigned this entire board, so we don't have none of those worries. But anyways, this unit would have needed service. Went up to a technician. We could already see additional sloppy work in here. We see that these bulbs are replaced with incorrect bulbs. The very rare and difficult to get Stanley rubber boots that go over those pins were discarded. So if you want to put back the original light bulbs, you can't, or it will be very difficult. Why am I saying this is lazy work? It's because the original light bulbs are still available, made by different manufacturers, but they're still the Stanley standard. And you could just do a drop-in, and it's much easier than going through the shenanigans. But I guess he put in there what he had, or was too lazy to research to find the right correct replacement. So this isn't already indicative of morons being in here. And now let's look at this V-fets for a second. Another thing that would have probably been needed to be serviced is cleaning and replacing the thermal paste, right? So let's look at this V-fets for a second. First of all, I'm seeing all sorts of mixed V-fets in here. I'm not sure exactly the whole story, so I'm not going to speculate, but let's just look at what's factual. So let's look in here on this bank right here. In the first one, we're seeing N channel on the left, P channel on the right, N channel on the left, P channel on the right. But as we're moving to this other channel, we're seeing P channel on the bottom and N channel at the top. So totally mismatched, total an idiotic situation. We could also see there were some sparks in here from the same idiotic moves. So again, my anxiety is caused by the fact that now we have one less B2 working with the original transistors. And that's been thematically what I'm seeing lately. And here's what's happening. We're seeing this amplifiers, as I mentioned to you, more and more are switching hands right now from people that had them, bought them new, and now they're hitting the market at very, very attractive prices. People hear them the first time, they get really excited because you hear a sound of a 5-figure amp right away, even at 50-year-old conditions. So they are eager to service it, and they send it to the wrong shop, either a shop that has not worked on this type of amplifiers before, and it's too proud to say, like, look, I should refuse the job or do a lot more research before I tackle it. Or you end up to a friend or a friend of a friend, and they destroy it, basically like a weekend warrior. So I guess the word of caution here is for those of you that own one of these wonderful amplifiers, at the risk of repeating myself and sound like a broken record, you must do some reference checking when you're sending your amp. Don't just ask like, hey, do you repair amplifier? Don't just walk into your corner shop. This comes from a corner shop, by the way, which they weren't able to repair it, which they suppose they got it from another shop, etc., etc. Again, not in I don't want to imply anything that they had something to do with this, but they were very honest about like, hey, this has 5 V-fets. They told me it's one channel though, not both channels. But again, since they didn't open it, supposedly they wouldn't know. So, but point is, don't just walk into a corner shop and think they're automatically, just because they have a corner business, they're going to be able to service this type of unit. Ask for references, not for how long you have been in business. If somebody comes and starts talking to you saying like, I've been in business 4 years, this should be no big deal, walk away. They should not boast about the years of experience. They should boast about the type of experience they have with specific units. In this case, this is a V-fet amplifier. Ask if there's a V-fet amplifier experience within that shop, if and even more important, with a B2. But most honest technicians, even if they haven't worked on this kind of units before, they'll tell you up front. I understand amplifiers, obviously, we work on vintage amps, but I have not worked in this type of amplifier. It may take me a little bit of time to do proper research, and I'll be getting done, because these amplifiers are not necessarily extremely difficult to work on, but they require additional research. They will not be they require a little bit of a different process when you're servicing them, like the power up process, the way you're testing these boards after restoring them, before you're putting them back in the unit. You can't put them back just directly with the old transistors on, because one wrong move, these are dead, and then you end up in this situation, right? So not a lot of shops would have used those techniques to bring up an amplifier, like this. You hear people using a dim bulb tester. That's not a problem. Not that the unit will be completely killed and survive that, but not your typical procedure. So again, if you want one of these things, I hope you find a way to get it to work safely so it doesn't end up in this situation. I hope you guys enjoy it for many years, because they're wonderful pieces of audio history, and they bring a lot of enjoyment in terms of sound quality. They're definitely punching severely above their weight class in terms of like price point. These definitely sound as 5 figures amps. People that have one of these working good condition, they'll be able to tell you that. I don't need to. For those of you that hear that from me right now, I'll be like, yep, I already know. Anyhow, so I hope to see you guys in another video with less drama. Leave comments in the comment section if you want to add anything. And to those of you that own a B2 that needs to be serviced, good luck to you. Ask around. There are some very good technicians out there with experience that should definitely be able to service your units. You just need to be have a little patience and do research. And so, all right, good luck to you all, and happy listening. Later.